Another year, another Triple J is losing listeners' frenzy on the internet. It seems hard to escape these headlines lately, as well as the continual Triple J have lost their way Reddit posts, which cite playlist choices, presenters, and the overall feel of the station. I wanted to address this issue in a video as I often talk about the J's on my channel, and there are some thoughts I would like to get out about these discussions. There were quite a few articles written about Triple J's ratings drop recently. Some were quite biased one way or another, although I have found one that I will be referencing which I think did a good job of showing the facts and raising the concerns without taking a side. This article is by Carl Quinn of the Sydney Morning Herald, and I'll leave a link in the description to his article. Also, I'll be sharing my opinions on this issue throughout the video, so no expectation for you to agree or disagree. I'd love to hear more thoughts from you about the issue though, so please feel free to comment back. But firstly, just before I get into it, if you like seeing content about Australian music, please consider subscribing, and that would be much appreciated. So essentially the main reason for these articles popping up lately is the release of the latest radio ratings. We can see that Triple J has once again lost listeners overall and has been going down on their total national audience numbers consistently since 2014. The most alarming point of interest for Triple J though was the drop in their younger demographic of listener numbers, most of which seem to have shifted to Smooth FM, a nostalgia-based station who saw an increase in ratings in younger demographics of 10 to 17, 18 to 24, and 25 to 39 year olds. In this survey period, Triple J averaged 78,000 listeners compared to 93,000 3 years ago during the same ratings period. And as far back as 2014, the station averaged 113,000 listeners at one point. Despite these downward trends, Megan Loader, the head of music at ABC, insists that they have never had more people listen to Triple J than they do now, citing a cumulative figure of 3.3 million listeners per week in 2021. Although the cumulative counting process defines a listener as anyone who tunes in for a 8 to 15 minute period during the week, which seems like a bit of a stretch to me. This begs the question, why has Triple J's audience dropped so consistently over the past 8 years? Is the station's issues with engagement, or is it the medium of radio itself? Well, Commercial Radio Australia found in a study this year that only under half of 10 to 17 year olds and 1/3 of 18 to 24 year olds actually still listen to radio nowadays in the country. In comparison, 2/3 of 55 to 64 year olds use this medium for audio consumption. The article I'm referencing shares an anecdote from a young Australian concerning this matter. They say, "The only time you'd catch me listening to the radio is in the car," says Ruby Vidder, a 23-year-old musician from Melbourne who discovers new music through TikTok, YouTube, Spotify recommendations, and friends. "The only radio station you'll ever catch me playing in the car is Smooth FM." She puts that down to the fascination with all things vintage and says, "Announcers yakking away on radio is a turnoff. If I want chatter, I go straight to podcasts." I would argue that this is a pretty typical statement shared by most people around her age. Radio is a dying breed, especially in the eyes of young people. I think of it this way: why would someone want to be dictated to as to what they consume when they can control completely the music they want to hear with streaming services? The same can be said for television channels versus streaming services. The world is changing, and how we find and hear music nowadays is very different to 20 and even 10 years ago. I think part of Triple J's issue with lowering audience numbers is that there are generally less people listening to radio, especially in their target demographic of people aged 18 to 25. So how do they combat this issue to stay relevant? In the article, the author also quotes Megan Loader of the ABC again, who points to other areas Triple J is succeeding. She says Triple J is the #1 Australian radio station on Facebook with 1.3 million followers, Instagram with 8,044 followers, Spotify with 450,000 followers, and YouTube with 1.5 million subscribers, where millions view our content, she says. Our podcasts are some of the most listened to at the ABC. She also mentions that many consumers connect to the station through their subsites such as Unearthed, Like a Virgin, and Live at the Wireless. I think she makes some great points here, and it gives me faith in the station to see that they are focusing on some of these elements of Triple J too, because they honestly could be the future of the station. I want to talk a bit more about some ideas I have that I think Triple J could focus on to grow again, or at least retain listeners, as well as transitioning towards new ways of finding fans. Please allow me to reiterate that these are just my opinions and ideas, and you do not need to agree if you don't want to. Also, I don't claim to be the arbiter or savior of Triple J with these ideas, I'm just creating points of discussion. I have 3 main ideas that I think Triple J could focus on, so let me delve into each of them now. Number 1, work out the best target audience for radio and market towards them. It is said that Triple J's market audience is 18 to 25 year olds, or young Australians. And that is fine, but it makes me think why that is. Why is one of the weakest consumers of radio the target audience? Really, when you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I know they have Double J to target to their older audience, so this is already being slightly combated. I guess there is no issue with marketing towards a niche demographic if that's what they want to do, so I'm happy for them to commit to that. It will make it tough to retain listeners moving forward though. This then leads me to think, what type of young person are they marketing to? Not every young person has the same style or taste, so they must be catering towards a type, right? Well, it's hard to say, but from my conversations that I have with young music fans in Australia right now, there seems to be a pretty clear divide. We have 2 subcultures emerging in the scene. On one hand, we have the music snob types. I'm talking the sort of people that probably moonlight in a few local bands themselves, play instruments, watch the needle drop, and so on. The sentiment here is usually, oh, Triple J is shit, they just play commercial stuff now. The other type of person that I tend to see in this culture is what I would call the good vibes type.
So I'm literally here just for the good vibes.
These are those who are just here for a good time, looking for a vibe, and will be more than happy to listen to anything Triple J plays. Except metal. The sentiment on this side seems to be, you, Triple J, good vibes, what a tuner. The problem the J's are having is that they are struggling to appease both of these subcultures, and if anything, it's my opinion that they are erring more on the side of the good vibes group, because they are easier to please. I think they could do a little better at centering their perspective a bit, and I think if they really wanted more listeners, the music snob types would probably be the ones more likely to listen to a radio station. Maybe they could reassess that area a bit. The more sort of Zoomer content that they are doing at the moment with memes, sayings, and vibes is a bit of a hard sell for the snobs, and I think it could be honed in a little bit. Number 2, transition towards becoming a media platform instead of a radio station. This was touched on by Megan Loader in her comments with her mentioning of social media following, subsites, and podcasts. I think ultimately the medium of radio will die one day, and it's moving towards there. I hope Triple J have this in mind and are already planning for the day of dread for radio. If it were me, I'd be making some changes now so that they can retain fans and develop new ones online too. The first thing I would do is scale back the presenters. People don't want to hear talking on the radio anymore. We are too impatient as a society. We just want to hear the tunes. I'd be happy with a back announce of songs and a preview of what's coming up, and that's about it. No, Steve-O from Geelong on the text line said that this song has got me bopping in the car. I'm sorry, Steve-O, I just don't care. Text lines and phoning up are a thing of the past in my opinion. That's what we have the comments section for now, people. The girl in the article put it best when she said, if I want talking, I'll listen to a podcast. This is probably half the reason so many people are switching to Smooth FM, because it's got hardly any talking. I'd also like them to expand more on online content. Like I said, one day radio will die, and Triple J might only exist as a media platform. They have already made some great groundwork with their social media and YouTube content, especially with Like a Version. Now let's see more of that. More shows, more interviews, more podcasts, more live performances. Maybe content that can go on ABC iView or even their own free streaming platform for videos and content. If they scaled back their on-air presenters, more of them could be working on this stuff instead. And number 3, transparency moving forward. This, in my opinion, has been one of Triple J's greatest issues lately. They still hold a lot of power in the Australian music industry and yet seemed more closed off to the public than ever. I think the audience deserves to know more about how songs are selected for playlists, why they are selected, and why some aren't. Why are some artists transition to Double J and others aren't? How much other fans listen to? Do they actually look at audience responses on a whole and react to them? because sometimes it feels like they don't. I'd like to see them engage more in these areas and overall go back a bit to what made them so great for alternative music fans in the first place, which was something that was different, something that cut the bullshit and went straight to the source, something that was edgy and fierce. It just seems to have become a little safe, a little stale, and just overall lacking a bit of identity. I know these words are a bit harsh, but hey, it's just my opinion and you don't have to agree. Overall, I really appreciate everything Triple J does for the Australian music industry, and I have to thank them for introducing me to so many great artists over the years. Although I am concerned by these rating results, and I am concerned about the directions they are taking to keep the station alive. Overall, I still have a pretty positive outlook for the future of Australian alternative music, and I know Triple J will be part of it. How they will be though, I'm not sure yet. I hope they innovate to continue to sustain listeners and ultimately continue to be a great platform for up and coming Aussie artists.